So you know what it's like inside of a computer. You know, you got your graphics cards, your RAM, all the different components, how it's supposed to look, the standard form factors, the ATX boards, the regular computer chassis, all these different things that you've been grown accustomed to. You know what they look like, you know how to build one. But what I want to do today is take today's video and take a look inside of a server. Why? Because a server is completely different. And you'll see in a couple seconds when we get into this video. Basically what we're going to do is we're just going to go over, crack this thing open, and just showcase a little bit of what's inside of an actual server. Now this is of course an old Dell, I think, what's this, Poweredge? I don't even know the name of it, but I've gotten my hands on one of these, and I want to take today's video just to give you guys a little rundown of what's inside. It's pretty old, but it still has the same general concept, and of course a lot of the newer stuff that's coming out has up to 4 sockets, and this is a 2-socket system, or 2-socket server right here. But basically we're just going to pop up the top, talk about a little bit about what goes on the front here and stuff, and then we'll get into the video. So without further ado, let's get it started on cracking this open and just explaining what some of this stuff is. Okay, so what's up? So today we're going to basically get into just starting and cracking this front open and seeing what the front is, and then we'll take off the top and then go from there. Actually, I think you need to get the front off first before you even can get the top off, so it's kind of important. So the Dell's servers sometimes have keys. Why? Because if you have data, especially sensitive data, if you want to make sure that nobody gets into that, you have some type of locking system. Now obviously this isn't going to save you from somebody that knows what they're doing or can plug in a USB on the back. But it does offer a little bit of protection from someone stealing your data. And how does that work? Well, data, you have hard drives. And basically, as you can tell, this is a really old system because we're not even rocking the 2.5 form factor for drives. But keep in mind you have your hard drive stored on the front, and these are basically for quick access, hot swapping drives. You can pop these out. I believe these are 10,000 RPM, like 300 gigabyte drives, so it's not really anything special. But they are pretty much relevant in the sense that you have your data stored on these. You take them out, you pop them out, and then you can swap them around as needed. If you need to upgrade your data or move your data, you can pretty much just pop them out and do things like that. But on the front, you've got a little bit of information. You've got like a little readout and readout screen, and then you've also got a little couple connections, like a USB connection and the power button, of course. But I'm going to unscrew these now, and we'll get interested in seeing what's inside of this computer. So taking off the top is a slight bit of a difficulty. It's a little old, a little rusty, but it's definitely worth to see what's inside. So if you've never seen what the inside of a server looks like, it does look something similar to what you'd expect a PC would. Obviously, you've got to understand that what you're doing here is you're shrinking everything down into a really small size. About the size of maybe, I'd say, about 3 hard drives. You've practically got your whole system shrunken down and flattened out. That's the best way to describe it. Is you've flattened your big, bulky, regular sized computer out into a regular kind of system like this. So let's talk about a few of these components first, because you're going to have a difficulty recognizing a couple of them. Number one, the CPU is not this. It is 2 CPUs, and each one of those is a CPU right there. And basically you can pop these out and then go about business and cracking them open and yanking them out, and then you can see you can pop the fans out. Fans have little connections similar to some of the workstations nowadays have connections like that. Basically, you got to keep in mind that all this stuff is designed so that it's interchangeable and is specifically designed for this system. So these fans will only work for the system alone. Also keep in mind power supply. There are 2, I said that right, 2 power supplies that actually are working on the system. So you got 1 and 2. Why? Because a server, especially when you're getting the top tier, best of the greatest, the most powerful hardware on the planet, because that's what servers are used for, especially in data centers, you've got to have a lot of power. And 1 power supply, keep in mind these I think are 1,500 watt power supplies a piece. That's 3,000 watts of power, and you have 2 power inputs on the back, 2 power outlets on the back that you're basically pulling power from in order to power this huge machine. So right here, as you can tell, we've got a lot of different fans, because the fans are important. As you can see right there, you've got the little connections and you've got the little connections here. And basically these are specifically designed and to connect and be simply easy to remove in and out. So let's talk about a few things. Number one, your power supply, which you're thinking of, common day. I'm going to take this out real quick, because we're going to get a little bit of an unboxing series as well. Basically, you've got to keep in mind that these are kind of difficult to see what's underneath them. I'm actually curious to see what's underneath one of these, so we're going to do that, because why not? Y'all are going to like this video, because we're going to find out what's underneath one of these suckers. Hopefully it's not something too crazy. It's probably like some old Xeon. Oh wow, we're stuck. So keep in mind, this processor has sockets and has pins on the CPU socket, which, not to mention, it's completely black, the power supply. But let's see if I can line the sucker up and put it back in there again, because I'm not going to even try messing or moving that. I thought it was going to be like an easy challenge or whatever, but it appears like it's not going to be. So let's see. Seems like it's just going to be a interesting challenge. We'll leave it there. And put this back down where we found it. Well, basically it's just fit in there. As you can tell, it's a dirty power or dirty cooler and stuff. I wasn't able to actually get the fan off because, as you can assume, this is a little old, and I think the thermal paste literally turned into concrete. Either that, or it's a solid soldered to the heat spreader on the back. But as for RAM, which you'll really get to tell the age of the system when I take one of these pieces out, it's DDR2. And obviously, when you have DDR2, it's of course going to be quite interesting. But this is ECC memory, and basically this is just memory that connects or corrects for any errors that are from atmospheric or cosmic rays. Basically, sometimes RAM will have a little bit of a problem where it will get hit by a cosmic ray, some data will get corrupted, and then it will automatically correct for that. But next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the PCIe lanes, if I can get this off. And basically, take one of these suckers off, and you've got to look at all the PCIe lanes. Now, these are not what you're commonly used to. These are 3-slot PCIe. I don't even know how to describe them. It's a bit old. But these basically work like this, where you have your graphics cards there, and you pretty much PCIe 3, 133 megahertz. That's the PCIe that we're running at right now on this system. As you can tell, this is more of like something to show you guys rather than me try to make a video out of and try to use the server for something, because it's not happening. But it's got some RAM in there just for caching. And then of course you've got all the hard drives up front, as well as a CD player and a bunch of other informational parts and stuff. But overall, yeah, I think that's a RAID controller right there, if I'm not mistaken. Some of this stuff I don't even know. Like, I probably should not be taking it apart because I have no idea half this stuff. But as you can tell, looks like something was supposed to be there. That's probably input and output for data, as well as some other information. But as you can see, it's pretty much an interesting inside components of a server. And obviously, this will look different. Sometimes they have 2 layers of 2 boards that are connected vertically, which I think what that may be. Sometimes they have like 2 sets of CPUs. They can have up to 8 sockets, I believe, which is really interesting too. But basically, what we're just going to do today is just show you guys what's inside of it, an overall look. And then of course, I'll be doing a video where I'm going to call up Dell and ask them to go through and service this machine. We'll just say that it's not working, and I'm going to try to call them and see what the response I get from Dell, just to get this machine, because honestly, I think it's kind of funny that I think it'd be pretty cool just to call them up and ask them, because there's a service tag and stuff. Just ask them like, hey, could you service my machine? And it's a 2006 Dell Poweredge. I think that's so funny, let's be honest. But that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up, and goodbye.